Look, it looks like I'm pissed myself.
How'd the camera get like that?
Oh, you idiot! You're recording.
Am I? I'll just cut this part off.
Okay.
But how did it change like its look so much?
It just fucking happened.
Oh, because it turned this way?
You can't see this shit. Yeah, look at it. See?
I'll turn off this. It's a little bright. A little bright. Like one on there. I don't need my glasses for this one. Let's go. We start right now. We're going to pick up the pace on this subject. The world is at war right now. I think looking back with the hindsight of history, we're going to say this is a world war. Maybe it seems like it's starting off a little bit quiet. It always seems like that. Like if you live during the beginning, the so-called beginning of World War I or the beginning of World War II, at the beginning, in those days, those months, people didn't really know that they were in the middle of a world war. You have to realize that. Put yourself back in that time. And if you were current then, you were like seeing things going on, but the declaration of it, that official position of labeling it or being aware of it as a world war was not there yet. It wasn't until afterwards when they gained the essence of it and wrote down formally that this is the history. Okay? So right now we have to do things before it happens. We have to make our awareness happen. That's what I'm doing for you right now. I'm making your awareness happen. I'm motivating you to do that. Are we in the world war right now? Is this the beginning? Okay? And now let me tell you why it's going on. The proof that it's going on. It's revolving around the Middle East, but it's also dealing with the superpowers. Like the major players, if you don't want to call them that. These are the forces that would have to be involved to make it a world war. You have basically everyone that is a Security Council member in the United Nations, the UN. So United States, Russia, China, or China, Russia, United States, or Russia, China, United States, in any order that you want to say it, because who's to know which one is number one? And I'm not saying that here. I'm not taking a side as to who I want to say is number one. It's been declared that United States has been number one because of the position it took after World War II, and mostly because of the accomplishments and the efforts of President Roosevelt. That's FDR, not Teddy Roosevelt. Okay, he's pre-World War I, but FDR is a guy who was a Navy secretary in World War I, and in World War II he was the president. So let's just get our basic history straight there. And since then, the United States has had this superior position or supremacy. So obviously they were instrumental. The United Nations was put into the United States region. It's in New York, on Manhattan Island. And you have like this competition that goes on, and it's like they call the Cold War, right? You know about the Cold War?
The Cold War is right now.
No, this is not a cold.
This is the freezing war. It's so cold.
We're actually in a hot war right now. So the Cold War is over. It's been over for a while. And what these forces are doing, and by the way, there's a few more forces. The United States is almost always aligned with the United Kingdom. That's why they're all called United. The Uniteds stay together. And sometimes it's as simple as looking at their name. Other times it's not. Other times the name is like meaningless. Now another thing that we have is the EU, which is a European Union. Union is another form of united. So they're closely aligned, and what they do militarily is under the NATO countries. They coordinate their armies. Now, so what happened as a prelude to everything that I'm saying is, let's list them off, because basically a handful of things happened in series, and you have Iraq and Afghanistan being attacked. Boom, it happens. Yeah, it was like the ending the Intifada in Israel, which is like a it's like a conflict, stressful point that causes tension with everybody else. Then you have Libya being basically destroyed after the Iraq-Afghanistan thing, and then you have the processes, the same ones going on with Syria. It seems very similar, but then you come to now, and you're looking at the Syria thing, where they throw in this other wrench, monkey wrench system, and it's called ISIS or ISIL, the Islamic State, which is some reformulation of the Al-Qaeda mercenary group. Now, why do I say it like that? Look, you gotta understand, like, they're just being paid to do this. They're paid off, and what do they get from it? You know, just to be terrorists, and who's the one that's calling the terrorists but the terrorists themselves? So, you know, that right there, that's a very important thing, because if you don't understand that, or you can't agree to that, or you don't admit to that, then, you know, there's no sense in talking to you. I want to make it clear that I'm not against any one of these major players. I'm not advocating in the world stage some kind of you know, revolution. I'm not actively or you know, violently promoting anything and taking sides on it. You know, not even as much as Edward Snowden on an intellectual technology level. I'm not doing that. As you know, like, he was also another, like, pawn in this, and they're all pawns. Even the politicians, the rulers, they're all pawns of a greater force, which we really can't even articulate. I mean, we might say it's communism, or we might say it's democracy, you know, the free world. We might say that, and that's like more informal as to where the nations are formal. But what is really happening with Syria? Because you have this storyline going on from the news, the mainstream news, that Syria is in civil war. So we already dealt with that whole issue, that whether it's a civil war or not. It's a proxy war, and you have to compare it to Korea. You have to compare it to Vietnam, even more so. You have to compare it to all the situations in Africa, especially the situations in Central America and maybe South America before that, or so many places of the world. But now compare it to the whole unfolding events of the Middle East since the Balfour Declaration. And before that, you got to realize that it was the Ottoman Turks that controlled the whole area, pretty much. If you look at a map of the full extent of the Ottoman Empire, which my friend just kindly looked up for me the other day, is 1850. Around that period is when they had their greatest extent of empire. So you look that up and you see, oh yeah, wow, that's the Turks are involved right now, but what kind of a position are the Turks in right now? They're not Ottoman Turks. What are they? They're Erdogan Turks. And are they aligned? Do I want to say that they are with the Islamic Brotherhood, that those conservative, very fundamentalist Muslims? Is he involved with them? Are the Turks going for more of an Islamic state? Well, the same thing could be asked: do the Swedish want to go for a more Christian state? We could also ask: do the Italians want to go for a more Christian state? Do the Spanish want to go for a more Christian state? Well, back in the late 1400s, going into the 1500s, you could ask that about Spain and say, did they want to be an Islamic state? Because they were. Spain was an Islamic state. It's the Moors. You know about the Moors? Moor. They're not s'mores, and they're not Moor, but Moors. Like moo, a moo cow? Moors. A moo cow. That's what they are. Moo. They're always mooing. No, what they were Muslims, see. They were Muslims at that time, and they were Moors. And the other people under the guidance of the Pope at that time, who was also, they were involved with, in the Vatican doing the Inquisitions, they got rid of the Muslims out of Spain around that time. But even more so, the decree that was given by Ferdinand and Isabella to get rid of all the Jews, so that it would not be any influence on the state. It wouldn't be a Jewish-run state. So, yes, the answer to that question, that period, is they did want to become more of a Christian state. So, when you're asking these questions under the color or the flavor of religion on any particular nation, you have to understand that secular doesn't cut it for them. To me, it just seems to go in cycles. It's either or. It doesn't mean that they're really religious, and it doesn't mean that they're really secular. It just means that the ruler at any given time is making more money on that. That's why he's doing it. Or she. He and she is doing it. They're conveniently making alliance there to have Islamic influence on Turkey. So what does that mean towards Syria? Is it a religious conflict? Is it the Sunni versus the Shia? Because Syria supposedly had a Shia majority, supposedly, because in Iran, that's what it seems like. In Lebanon, you know, maybe that's what it seems like in Lebanon, because you have Hezbollah, the group there. So Hezbollah doesn't seem to be like Al-Qaeda in that way. Hezbollah seems to be independently run. Oh, no, I shouldn't say that. They have a lot of influence from Iran, the Hezbollah organization. And what about, remember the PLO in the Palestine area, in the West Bank and Gaza? Now they've kind of, you know, now it's like, what do they call it? Fatah or Hamas, all these groups. And I really have to say now, Intifada has just started, and this is my first video vlog of, you know, being with that. It's that we have just crossed into that period. What does that mean? Well, that's revolution around the Holy Land. Israel has just officially, formally come out to say that they're an intifada. And that's why a lot of people are getting killed, a lot of people are protesting. Jerusalem is not allowed to have any Palestinians going around. There's a curfew, there's all kinds of rules and restrictions put into place, and it's martial law. I said it here first in my vlog, right? So when I go back over there, it's going to be a different situation that I'm looking at. Where's this intifada going to go? Who's all involved with it? You know, you got Lebanon on one side, you got down in the Sinai, the other one, Sinai Peninsula. You got another. You got Yemen all the way further down there. That kind of factors in indirectly. But in between there, in this vast area, you got the Saudis. What's going on with the Saudis? I'm going to get to all this stuff. It's so big because we're talking about every region there, every faction, every nation. Like, how does it all divide? It's, in a way, it's complex to try to explain it, because you know, like this isn't my career, but I do need to know what's going on. Just like I think everyone can relate to this. You can relate to the position I'm in. We don't get paid for this, but we're looking at this from, you know, like us, like an armchair politician in a way. You know, we want to know like what's going on. Why? For the practical value, when you travel, you know, you got to know what to say to who so you don't get killed. It's a practical thing. But why is everyone calling Syria a civil war when it's obviously it's a proxy war, and it's something the factions of the United States have done something with it? The factions of the United States. Well, who are they, and what is shifting and changing right now? The trend right now, according to this, as I told you, I wasn't going to say who wrote this. I'm looking at a blog on here, and they talk about cabals. Now, what did you say? What did you say about it?
What, Kabbalists?
No, not a Kabbalist. That's with a K. Kabbalah. All right, here we got to understand something. In politics, when we talk about cabal, people use that term because they're talking about a faction of power, of military power, of economic power, and it's compared with a mafia, okay, or a cartel. That's why they use the word cabal. It has maybe something to do with magical power, black magic. You know, a cabal has something to do with some unholy, ungodly alliance, okay? That's what it means, a cabal. But it's not to be confused with Kabbalah. Kabbalah is a mystical, spiritual study of scripture that are of the Israelites, or Jewish. It's like the most mystical branch of Judaism. Alright, so in a way, since it's so spiritual, it can be connected with Christianity. And it can be connected with just a universal way of looking at spirit and what's going on. So that has nothing to do with Kabbalah. I only brought that up because we shouldn't be talking about that here. We got to narrow the focus more. We're talking about Kabbals. And Kabbals is a term that a lot of conspiracy theorists use, such as myself. You know, I am a conspiracy theorist, and there's nothing wrong with that, and I do not like the slander against it. It is a establishment kind of oligarchy, knee-jerk reaction, and they shouldn't be doing it. They should be embarrassed that they do it. But we have to understand, as civilogists, we have to understand that they're just afraid for their careers, because conspiracy theorists are taking away their jobs and their cash cow. You know what I'm saying? They say, they come up with a theory. Well, it's not mainstream news. I'm sorry. You know, you can go to hell, because we don't want to hear your lies anyhow. Conspiracy theorists are trying to weed through the lies to get to truth. We're actually looking at facts that are being ignored or covered up, trying to erase that from people's discussion, or people being aware of it. You know, just out and out lies. So conspiracy theorists are like everything that I've come up with here. Who's doing what? I've told you a lot of things which challenge what propaganda you've been eating, that these news groups are feeding you. I've challenged it. What are the Saudis doing but working with the Israelis? But also, in some way, working with the Turks. The Turks are like this pivotal point between Europe and the Middle East. That's where the Turks are. That's why they are the easternmost fringe to the European power of NATO. And it's like the front of the battering ram. And what's right in the midst of that battering ram, it's battering into Syria right now. A lot of force comes through Turkey from different areas, but now the tide is changing because force is coming around from the other side, and both sides around Turkey from Russia. Russia and Iran right now seem to be coordinating. They are cleaning up the whole situation of Syria and all the way through to Iraq, what they wanted to call the Islamic State. Like what somebody wanted to call the Islamic State. But that whole thing is collapsing. It's all collapsing like a house of cards. You're having massive loss right now. People are getting killed. These are the mercenary troops. Tons of people are getting killed. These airstrikes, most of them from air and some of it on the ground. Who's getting killed? I've even heard that Israeli clandestine missions of the Israelis are being killed, and also Saudis, and also several of the other ones, and all of it under the umbrella of the Islamic State maneuvers, ISIS or ISIL. Now, these all are getting killed and pushed back. How is this possible? Is it really Russia heading this spearhead against the whole Western plan and that proxy war around Syria? Are they literally going against it? Well, that's a lot of the hype that we're hearing, and Putin is being put up as like a hero. Putin really gets something done. How much of it's true or how much of it's exaggerated? Do you think Putin is that great? Don't be laughing at Putin. He'll poot you. He'll really put you good. But Putin, what about Obama? Obama or Putin? I don't want to be Obama nothing.
I choose.
He's not bombing enough.
I choose Putin.
You choose Putin over Obama?
Well, I'd rather get Putin on than have a bomb on there.
Well, what about this guy in China? We don't even know his name. We don't even really know who's in charge over there. But we know that the Defense Department, the Pentagon power there, and the different factions were saying that the Far East is a much bigger problem than they're willing to face. It's a little bit more effort to deal with it than the Middle East, because they are involved with the Middle East. I already named all these things that they did. But what are they doing over there? Talk about Japan and North Korea. Is North Korea now getting along with China? That's what I'm hearing. How does Japan factor into it? Is Japan becoming more militarized? That's a huge issue and a huge question. Was Japan supplying the Islamic State with Toyotas to drive around in, the Toyota pickup trucks and those SUVs? Well, someone said no. But if an industry member like the Toyota manufacturers cut that deal in, it's because of pressure, because of money, because of, we're not going to protect you if you don't do that kind of thing. It's not like they just thought of it because they want to support the Islamic State. Is this going to turn out as a harmonious picture in the long run? No, it's not. That's why I'm saying about Putin and about all of them forces and Iran, I didn't say I'd jump in with any of them. I'm not cheering on anybody, so that's why you should be listening to me, because I'm telling you in the way that you're just hearing about all the facts of these different forces, the different nations, without any opinion, without any long-term bias. It's as neutral as you can get it. We are going to try to do live events where people can come in, and I enjoy debating, and everyone will learn. So let's. Actually, I can't do it on this channel. I'm going to put a link down there, and I'm going to show you the channel where I can do that. Unfortunately, I'm not going to complain about YouTube here, but this channel I can't do it. I'm going to do it on my... Oh, I will probably do it on American President channel. That's the one that's under... I put the title on it, President Roosevelt. That's where I'll sponsor my geopolitical live stream. The Google Hangout, okay? So, maybe we're going to get that happening. Maybe because I'm going to get more active here. Thanks for watching, everybody. 25 minutes. Pretty good. 25 is a good number.